welcome to another math video lesson. You'll see behind me a catamaran sitting out on the Caribbean Sea. I'm going to hop on one of those a little bit later and take a tour of Dunn River Falls. But for now, let's go ahead and jump into today's math video. Alright, in lesson 3-2, we're going to take a look at rate of change, another one of our characteristics that we're going to be discussing in this unit. The rate of change is also known as the slope. And what it is a ratio describing how one quantity changes as another quantity changes. In algebra, we're typically comparing how the output changes to how the input changes. Now, the formula for your average rate of change, or your slope, is on your formula sheet. You will find it at the top of the formula sheet on page 2. The formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Now, we've talked briefly about slope before, back in Unit 1 and Unit 2 when we were graphing. We're going to take a more in-depth look at it through this lesson. So if you'll recall, if the value of slope is positive, then we know that the rate of change is increasing over time. And if the rate of change decreases over time, you should expect a negative slope. Now we're going to look at several different ways in this lesson that you may be asked about rate of change. The first and most straightforward is just from ordered pairs. We're going to be given ordered pairs, and we're going to be asked to use that slope formula that's on our formula sheet to help us figure out what those are. Now, if you flip back to your formula sheet or reference the notes above, you'll remember that the slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And what we're going to do is we're going to plug these points into our slope formula. So we're given 2 points, negative 4 and 2, and negative 6 and 4. And just to help keep things straight, I'm going to go ahead and label these as x1, y1, and x2, y2. And that way we know exactly what we're plugging into this formula. So we're plugging into the formula, y2 in this case is going to be 4, and then we're going to subtract y1, which is 2. And then on the bottom we're going to have x2, which is negative 6. And now this is where it's important that we always pay attention to our signs. In our original formula it is a minus sign, but then if you look at our x1, it's also a negative. We have to make sure that we include both of those negatives so that we end up with the right answer. Now as we simplify, the two negatives turn into a positive. So on top we're going to have 4 minus 2, which is 2, and on the bottom we're going to have a negative 6 now plus 4, which is going to give us negative 2. We always want to simplify the fraction that we get. In this case it's going to simplify to negative 1, and negative 1 is going to be our slope. Alright, let's go ahead and take a look at example 2. Now, one thing I just want to emphasize, it does not matter which ordered pair you label as x1 and y1 and which you label as x2 and y2. As long as you make sure you keep the x1 lined up with the y1 and the x2 lined up with the y2. So to illustrate that point, I'm going to actually this time use my second ordered pair as x1 and y1 and my first pair as x2, y2. So when I plug this into the formula, my y2 is going to be 5, and my y1 is going to be 2. Now, as long as I use the same leading x value as I did for my leading y value, then I'm going to be able to do it either way. So since I used the 5 first in this case, I need to use the matching x value, which was 3. So I'm going to do 3 minus x1, which was 3. I'm going to subtract 5 minus 2, and I'm going to get 3. I'm going to get 3 minus 3, and that's going to give me 0. Now, if you remember back to Unit 1, when we were graphing, if you have anything divided by 0, you're going to get an error in your calculator. So what this is going to have is an undefined slope. And just kind of a handy tool to help you guys through the slope. If you remember back to that Unit 1 we talked about Mr. Slope Guy, that will give you a good idea of what your slopes will look like based on what kind of rate of change you get. If it's a positive slope, it'll be going uphill, negative slope downhill. If it's undefined, it's going to be a straight vertical line up and down, and if you have a slope of 0, it's going to be horizontal. Alright, you guys give the U-Tries a try, and then check out your answers in the U-Try solutions, and we'll see you in video 2.